Stay focused.
Yeah, you're right.
And
Thanks, Sam.
what is your expertise so
Thanks,
that we're
Sam.
all clear?
Yeah.
What is your influence?
Well, influence
If you-
is harder
if you-
for me to judge, but I
if
can
you'd
tell you my
like to provide
expertise.
that,
So I was trained in physics, and then I switched, so physics at MIT, and then I switched to doing, about that time, doing more environmental science. And so I basically anchored at a place called Carnegie Mellon University, which has a Department of Engineering and Public Policy, which has done work on a bunch of basically public policy questions, a lot, but not all environmental, where the science matters. So we worked a lot on air pollution and climate change and some water pollution stuff and life cycle analysis and a big range of things. And we get funded by a mixture of private and government sources, like any university, and we, you know, enormous range of stuff has got done. And I've also spent about 5 years or so back, I was a postdoc for a guy at Harvard, trying to develop instruments to figure out how to measure temperatures from space. So basically doing experimental science. So I actually on the fuel conspiracy theories on what you would call the U2. NASA has 2 ER2s, and they're used for science and other things, and discovered the cause of the ozone hole. And the group I was in was the prime group that actually made the instruments that proved what the cause of the ozone hole was. And so we were building instruments that fly on that to measure temperatures. And I've been here for 6 years. So, I mean, I work on a pretty wide range of energy environmental problems. I mean, on this topic, I'm involved in lots of ways. I'm happy to list them. I mean, the topic of geoengineering. At this point, still think there probably is no topic of chemtrails, but I'm fascinated that you guys think there is. And I'm also frankly disturbed. So I've had many people writing me saying that they want to kill me. We've had one person who was called Hollie with enough anger that we had to call the police.
Oh, sorry
Oh
to
yes.
hear that.
Oh yeah. No. We have emails that say
very sorry
I'm
to
evil.
hear
I don't love my children. I should burn a lake of fire. We had somebody who called Hollie, who was worked a local detailing store and believed that I was a mass murderer, and so then left a message when he was drunk and aggressive enough that we actually did call the police and talk to him. So
And that's because of
all this stuff that you.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not blaming
So
you
it's
guys, but there are
drawn some
consequences to
attention.
shouting fire in a crowded room.
Yeah.
And if people keep pushing this chemtrails conspiracy, my guess is somebody, not necessarily any one of you guys, will act on it, because if it's literally true that there is a conspiracy, then it might be rational to murder somebody like me.
No.
Yeah, that's.
Yes, seriously, take if you guys are serious about what you're saying. I mean, if you really thought it was true that I was one of the kingpins of a conspiracy to kill people, and nobody believed it, it might be rational to go kill me.
No.
I'm not saying you're saying that.
Yeah.
But there will be people who listen to what you say who may act, and you have to take responsibility for that one way or the other.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, quick
Michelle
question.
had some.
Yeah.
When you say conspiracy and you say the government, why is it that the government would be covering it up? Don't you think there'd be people paying the government officials to cover it up, and they're the ones? Like an example of that before you answer. Corexit being used in the Gulf.
Yeah.
1911, Standard Oil was severed into 36 smaller companies. They're owned by the Rockefellers.
Yeah.
Let's go into the elite system here. Like, do you think that the government would cover up a conspiracy, or do you think that there'd be people above that creating conspiracies and then getting the government officials to cover that up, without them even maybe having?
I think it
as
can
much
go
knowledge?
lots of ways, but I think, and this is obviously just a real different worldview. I mean, forgetting about this topic, I don't think there are as many secrets as I think
So
you guys do.
what do
And
you
I think
corrects
the
that?
reason is that I think it's extremely hard to keep effective secrets in modern democracies where governments don't easily just lock people up and kill them right away. And so what we find again, I remember, just to give you like an off-the-cuff example, I had one of my friends growing up, dad worked for, Canadian military, worked for NATO or something, and he said that they have all this secret document on the Soviet weapons that were secret. He said actually going to Jane's, the standard publisher of military, said Jane's all the world's ships and aircraft was basically just as good, because anything that a lot of people build, you can't keep secret. I just can't think of any example. I mean, you can do the Manhattan Project for a couple of years during the war.
You say that because
Yeah.
both my parents worked on the NATO
Yeah.
Supreme Allied headquarters
Yeah.
in Shape in Belgium.
Yeah.
Believe me, they can keep secrets.
Could be.
It's
but
easier. It's harder
but it
and
hasn't
more
been-
life-threatening
hasn't
to
been my
uncover the
experience.
secrets than keep the secrets. So
could be we're coming, but that may be the difference between what we're saying. Yep.
I would just like to present maybe a different way of looking at that,
Yeah.
as far as a secret being kept.
Yeah.
If I have a secret and I tell Nicholas one word, and I tell Paul one word,
Yep.
and I tell Sam one word, and I tell Justin one word, and I tell the gentleman on the end, I forget your name, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Sure.
one word. Does he know he's part of a secret? Does Sam know he's part of the secret? Does Paul know he's part of the secret? Does Nicholas know he's part of the secret? When we're talking about government organizations and agencies that are each separately formed, you have employees, you have service people within one organization that do not know. I've worked in big corporations. I know my department had no idea what the other department was doing. So, just for the sake of argument and perception, could there not be a secret or series of secret, like you say, where an employee or a person has no idea that they're part of that secret?
I think that's actually a great question. Let's just pursue that for a little bit to try and put some flesh around if this was happening, what it would mean. So let's assume for a second, obviously I don't believe this is true, but let's assume that there really was large-scale spraying of like significant quantities of materials for civilian aircraft. Then again, somebody has to manufacture the thing that holds the materials. It's not built into the aircraft. Somebody has to load stuff onto it. There's got to be a whole supply chain to do that, right? And so yes, in principle, one could construct a conspiracy where one group of people built all that without knowing what they were building, just as you said, and some much smaller group of people knew why they were doing it. But if the one group of people who was building it didn't know it was bad, they'd have no reason not to tell. And so again, it would be publicly contracted. So the point is, governments in the modern world, it's very hard for them to make big contracts without, just let me finish, without a huge paper trail. And I work with aircraft a lot. I mean, if you wanted to modify that many civilian aircraft, you have to deal with a lot of people. And especially if they don't think it's a secret, going on your theory, because they're deceived, right? They would have no reason not to just hand over the blueprints. And so again, why aren't they there?
Well,
Can I
The
just
patents
make a
are there.
statement?
This is more done by
See
the
that?
military
Patents.
than it is by private civilians and the military industrial
Yeah.
Well,
complex.
so there's different theories. I mean, how many of you think this is, because mostly I've heard chemtrails people say this comes from civilian aircraft.
Well, the great way for the
Militarized.
military to hide it would be use civilian aircraft or anything else.
There's,
Partnership with
Let
Halliburton and
Michelle-
stuff
let's
like
let
that.
Michelle
It's
speak.
Very easy.
Yeah.
okay.
people can keep
I'm
secrets
just,
if they like.
I'm just wondering on this topic, if people could just tell me why the military
Yeah, good question.
industrial complex or a civilian
What's the purpose
complex,
here?
Why we're
Yeah.
doing chemtrails. So I have.
I have
Yeah,
Michelle,
so
this is
one
you.
second, in a big survey that we did, and I asked people basically about their beliefs in it. There's all kinds of different ideas that come out, but one of them is the primary one is to call the population, and we've seen that a lot. So I'm just wondering if, I mean, for me to even start this conversation, I need to understand why someone would be putting devices on an airplane that would be spreading something to what end?
Yeah,
And
what's-
so then we can have a conversation.
That's such
from
a
that
fair
point. So-
question,
Weather
Ashley.
modification.
Okay,
Yeah.
so weather modification, are there
Okay.
any other?
Yeah, I think we need to, we are way over here and we need to bring
Okay.
this conversation over here. First of all, locally, we do cloud seeding. I don't think does anyone in
That's
this
no-
room
yeah.
know what that's about?
Well, that's
So,
nothing new.
Locally, we do cloud seeding where it's for a hail suppression program.
Mhm.
And the companies that does it is Weather Modification Inc. And they do it because they get paid by the farmers
Yeah.
through the insurance companies to suppress the hail so that it doesn't ruin the crop.
Yep.
This is well known. Everybody
Yeah.
knows
Sure.
this.
I
Check
don't
mark.
think David and I would.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
public,
Okay.
know it
well
happens-
understood,
happens in
huge,
Texas, it
yeah,
happens
yeah.
many places.
Exactly.
So why on a civilian aircraft?
Well, I'm not claiming it is necessarily a civilian aircraft, but I can tell you the money to fund it would come from the military if it was a civilian.
Okay, but what does the Canadian, American, UK military